Okay, hello everyone, welcome again to the Pillars of Salt LARP Education Class number 6. Today we're going to be talking about combat basics and complications. One of the key things that we were thinking about while all the people involved in this, there's some parts that I'm beginning to talk about in disciplines and craziness and like what part of the status works and all this and that. And there are some players who still do not know with ease and simplicity how to do a basic bid, how to aggress against another player, how to actually have a fight. And when they're attacked, they get nervous, they get upset, they get a little flustered, and it's a retention issue that people don't know the base core mechanic of By Night Studios. But because the nature of a bid and a challenge deals with other people, we've decided to try a new format tonight. And in this new format, we are going to be having some guests. So,
well, hello everyone.
Hi.
Hello. For those who do not know, I am Patrick Thomas, who is the head storyteller at Pillars of Salt and runner of these videos. We're going to start from the side right here at Harry. Harry, would you like to tell people a little bit about what you do in Pillars and your experience?
Well, I've been playing for, me and you, Pat, started up in what, 93, 94, Pat?
Yeah.
With Vampire the Masquerade back in high school. I play Skull Crusher of Clan Brewhawk, and I am also the werewolf storyteller, creating the City of Rage troop and chronicle. Hopefully we're going to get that kickstarted either in December or January. Still looking for people. Message me. I'll get you set up.
And Ari?
Hi. I am Pillars Community, or one half. And then I've been playing in Pillars for 1 year. I've been LARPing for 1 year.
So one of the great things about Ari is she had no other experience in LARP than By Night Studios, and she is our wonderful kind of, guys, this doesn't make sense, and it lets us kind of take 2 steps back and understand where everyone else is, and that's why she makes such a great community person. With our other community person, Gerard, who is not here currently tonight. And now we have Michael.
Hi, my name is Michael Steinbach. I am one of the other main storytellers for the Camarilla Chronicle here at Pillars of Salt. I've been playing in the Pillars of Salt LARP since its starting. I was a Game 1 player. I've played all the way through. I think I've only missed one Camarilla game in the entire 2+ years that we've been running. Before that, I had almost no LARP experience as well. I had a lot of D&D experience, other games kind of in that vein, but I had really never LARPed before, especially not in the continued version that the Vampire Pillars of Salt game is.
So, now that you've met everyone, and we're on that particular point, we are going to start at the basic part. And we are going to have kind of a mock combat here. And everyone is going to kind of have a little piece of their discussion in it, so you can have an idea with the group on how the situation would go. So, at the very beginning of a conflict, the first thing that has to be determined is initiative. Would someone else like to talk about initiative, or I'm happy to talk about it?
Sure, I'll go with initiative. Initiative is calculated in a somewhat interesting way in this mechanic. You get to essentially bid whatever your either mental or physical traits are, usually whichever is higher. Now, it gets a little confusing if I'm going to pull out my gun, I'm going to shoot this guy, or I'm going to punch this guy, versus I'm going to cast a spell at this guy. It doesn't matter the action you're doing. What matters is the trait that you're using to bid for initiative. So you could punch a guy, but if your mental is higher than physical, you're going to bid your mental. If you're going to cast a spell at a guy, but your physical is higher, you're going to bid your physical just to get that higher number. There are a handful of things that can adjust your initiative modifier off of just straight whatever that trait is. So, for example, if you are a starting character, one of your traits is going to be 7. So if you had a 7 physical, and then you were going to shoot someone, and you had a fast gun, the fast trait from the gun will add to that initiative, but just because your firearms is 5, that firearms doesn't add in, even though it will be part of a later pool that we'll talk about in a moment.
Okay, say Michael, you have 11 physicals, and I have 11 mentals. Who is going to go first?
The mental always wins against the physical. However, if you have 11 mental and I have 11 mental, but I have 7 social and you only have 6 social, I'll still get to go before you, because social is the tiebreaker.
There you go. So that is the initiative phase of all combat.
If I could add to that, though, there are disciplines like celerity,
Absolutely.
which gives you, if you spend the blood to initiate celerity, you get 1 point for every level of celerity you have. So if you have 2 celerity, you've just kicked your initiative up from 11 to 13, which means you don't have to worry about who's tying, because you're now beating whoever it is. If you've got 5, you've now kicked it up to 16, if you're spending the point to activate your celerity.
Right.
It's the double also value for getting techniques and elder powers and celerity, because it adds to that effect as well.
Exactly.
It's for every celerity power that you have. So techniques, elder powers, they all come into play.
So, Ari, we got how the start of the fight works?
I think I got it.
Okay. So, then, the next phase of the action is why mental over physical in initiative? Sad Fog of Decay has asked in the chat. I think the idea is the eye is faster than the hand, that you're able to think about what you're going to do before the physical. It is more of a power balance, I believe, is why they did it in BNS, because the physically initiative person is already going to be particularly aggressive. They wanted to at least have a person who is not necessarily the strongest also still have an ability to kind of fight back there.
Well, it's kind of like we were talking about earlier. It's the, if you stop and think about it, it's the, if you are a smart person, aware of your situation, aware of your surroundings, you're going to sit there and go, I'm with a Brewhog who's really ticked off. He's going to start swinging, so you're going to be prepared mentally to make your move first.
Right.
Probably also why they let social be the deciding factor is because you're socially aware of the situation within the room. You know, that's the logic my brain goes down when I think about it.
Right. And like the flight fear response is almost a psychological instead of the action of attacking. It's like I'm afraid before the gun is pulled because I know there is a gun.
Right.
Okay.
You notice him reaching for the gun so you can react, rather than, alright, the gun is now in my face, now I get to react.
Right. So now we're on the actual doing stuff. So at the most simplest mechanic easy statement, I am going to push Ari. So we're at initiative, and let's say you have 6 physical traits and I have 7 physical traits. So I'm going to be winning this challenge. Let's say your social is your 7, so it doesn't matter. Now we begin to test. Now, the testing, before I even throw a symbol, I should know what my test pool is.
Yeah.
My test pool is the attribute of the action, which may be physical, mental, or social. Then it is the ability that is reflective in that thing. So for example, if I was going to attack Ari, my trait pool would be physical plus brawl. And if she was going to defend, can you guess what it is?
It's physical plus dodge.
It is physical plus dodge. So most of the time, you're going to be having a different attribute count than your opponent. The defender and the opponent have different ones. Okay, so let's test. 1, 2, 3. So I have a rock and you have a scissors, which means I've won. Now, if you don't want me to win, because you're like, I don't like getting pushed,
I don't get pushed.
you can spend a willpower to retest this challenge. Now, under the exact By Night Studio rules, only 1 willpower can be spent in the entirety of the challenge. In Pillars Assault, we let each person use a willpower, just as a note, so we're going to be playing it absolutely by Night to let it be fine for everyone else out there who's learning these things. So, you're going to spend a willpower for a retest.
Alright, I'm going to spend a willpower.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, and I have a paper and you have a scissors. I've lost. Now, in the base mechanic, that'll be the end of the story. You have not gotten pushed, as I attempted to push you. Okay?
I'm a rock.
Now, Harry, you want to explain overbids?
Overbids. The overbid is because you have double or more traits than the person you're having a challenge with. you can say, I'm overbidding. Even after the willpower, the by night rules say you can use willpower or overbid in any order. So, I have double the... Skull Crusher has double the physical traits that Ari has for that same action that was just happening. So I'm going to... She's already spent the willpower, so I can't spend willpower. So I am going to overbid you. Say, no. I'm too physical. I get another shot. We go again. Ready? 1, 2, 3. She wins.
And Ari cannot be pushed. She's like a bubble ball.
I am the king of the hill.
Yes.
She pulls the Kung Fu Judo move, and Skull Crusher goes right past her through the wall.
Okay. So now, that is the basics of the overbid mechanic. Now, a lot of situations also have something where it says, if an exceptional success occurs, this other effect happens.
Right.
Most of the time in combat, it adds another damage. Some disciplines add other effects. But a lot of things say exceptional successes. Now, what is an exceptional success? Now, Ari, do you know what an exceptional success is?
I did. I learned about it.
Would you like to tell us all what
So an exceptional success is when you attempt to do something and you actually win without losing or time. So even if you use your willpower point or your overbid and you are successful in that action, you are capable of gaining the exceptional success as long as your traits are at least one higher than your bid.
Yeah, than your opponents.
Than your opponents.
Yes.
I have a question on that. I thought in the book it said it has to be 5 or higher.
Wonderful thing, we have a book!
We do. I will go to the overbid because it's right here.
And you give me a page.
Overbid, exceptional.
Oh, exceptional.
Exceptional. And we also can show it to everyone else here.
Right.
I just saw that.
Also, as some of you can
Reading
tell,
the
we've got
text.
someone looking at a book. Patrick's looking at his
Okay, here we
computer.
go.
What's the
You
page?
can, one of the great things is you can also get it
It's
on your phone, so
272.
that while you're playing,
The very
you
top.
can easily pull up the phone and check rules
Winning the test.
without having to go to a large, potentially cumbersome book, or have to go into a laptop.
So yeah, it is on page 272 of your By Night Studios.
Okay.
And we'll just start up where it says, if you have the greater test pool than the challenge's difficulty rating, you score an exceptional success. Exceptional successes often provide additional beneficial effects, such as inflicting more damage. If you lost or tied the first test in the challenge, and then won after retesting, or if your test pool is equal to or lower than the difficulty rating, you score a normal success.
Okay, I stand corrected.
So that means,
It was 11, you got 12, you got the exceptional.
Right.
unless, one of the ways that what they're saying is, I win, I got the higher score, you retest, we tie. I go, no, I got to win this, so I run my overbid, I win again, testing's over. I can't claim exceptional because I tied at least on one,
Right.
even though my score is definitely higher.
Right.
Yes. So, if you're ever in a situation where you win them all and your test rate's cool, you get your exceptional. If you don't win one, regardless of what your test pool is, not so hot. I'd like to take 2 steps back actually for overbid. I want to make a point of why you would want to use an overbid first or second versus the willpower. Okay? If you're going against an opponent and your willpower is currently much higher, you want to use the willpower before you use the exceptional, because then they can't use a willpower. If you're in a situation where your willpower is lower or they've already spent a willpower, that's when the exceptional comes into play.
The overbid.
The overbid. The overbid comes into play because you normally don't want to... You're using it as an extra on top of the willpower choice, and if you can mitigate their willpower control, that's the extra power of the overbid. Okay? Yes.
So I have a question.
Yes.
What happens when we're dealing with this first little bit of combat here, and I say, all right, I want to go over and punch that person.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I'm if I only have a let's say 7 initiative, and you got a 10 initiative, you would go first initiative-wise, but you don't have anything to react to because I haven't thrown a punch yet.
No, but I think you will. I can see that you're throwing the punch.
Okay. I believe there is a section in the book that deals with situations like that.
Because you can hold your action too.
Right. And if you hold the action to the next round, you actually get a +5 on your initiative. For
If
the
you
next
didn't
round.
do anything.
If you didn't do anything.
Yes.
But there is a way of, okay, I'm punching you, and that is the first action, and then we start getting into rounds of combat.
Okay. I now see what you're saying. You're actually doing it slightly differently than I think the way the book is written. What the book, I think, is saying is the first bid is not on initiative. The first bid starts the initiative phase. So if I attack you, I get my bid off and I get my test off.
Right.
Then anyone who wants to react, including you, we now go to initiative.
Right. So we get the initial aggressive action in
Yes.
there, and then we jump into initiative after that. Now the person who acted and gave that first punch, they have now used their standard action for that round of combat.
Yes.
They still would have their simple that will happen on their normal initiative.
That's correct.
So if I have 3 physicals and I'm trying to punch you at 7 physicals, I get the punch, then your initiative goes off, you get the full rest of your turn because your initiative is higher, and then I get my simple action after. And then we will go on to either celerity rounds or just the next round of combat.
Yes. Now,
Which is important because it might mean that you are getting 2 rounds of combat in essentially a row before I get to activate.
there is conversation on celerity that you can do your simple before their standard.
There are ways, there's Burst of Speed as a combat maneuver as well,
Yes.
that allows you to take your simple action out of initiative order.
Right. So that is something that actually can interrupt a pre-initiative action.
Right.
Man, it's reminding me of the old days where there's pre-com, non-combat, and all these other phases. They didn't really write the phases so well. There's essentially the action, and then there is celerity actions that are listed here. Even in Temporis, they call it celerity actions. But yes, so that is a complication initiative.
Right.
Now, do we want to go to damage, or do we want to go to maneuvers?
I think damage. More people are going to deal with initiative and damage than may deal with maneuver.
Okay, would you like to start that?
Sure. Typically, when a vampire is fighting another vampire, and let's say you're a Bruja and you're going up to punch someone, as just a base damage for that punch, or let's say you've got a sword and you're going to stab someone, you're going to do 1 point of damage. If you get an exceptional success, you've won all the ties, your physical is higher, your physical and attack plus versus their physical and dodge.
If you don't mind, we actually have a chat question.
Oh, go for it.
In the chat question is, do they still have surprise attacks? They do, but only with this exacting piece. You have to be an Assamite with a merit.
Right.
There's a merit the clan Assamite has called surprise attack, where if they actually attack on a surprise, they get bonus traits. There is no other surprise mechanic listed in the book. Sorry, Ray.
Except, for those going over to werewolf, there are traits over there. Some tribes in Farah will actually have surprise attack.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it called surprise attack, or is it called a pre-initiative attack? What do they call it?
Ratkin do have a bonus for attacking from surprise.
Oh, okay. So they make it like the merit, but for other people. That's really neat. Okay, so Michael, back on the.
So damage. So if you're normally punching someone, if you're normally stabbing them with a sword, dagger, etc., you're going to do a point of damage. If you get the exceptional success, you will usually do 2 points of damage, but that means you have to win all the tests. Your trait pool has to be higher than theirs. Kind of the interesting thing is a gun does 2 points of damage on its base, and then the exceptional will give you the third. Now, what makes that, it seems that's a little overpowered, and actually this was talked about a little bit in some of the discipline tutorials that we've had in the past. What makes it different is if you're attacking someone physically, the discipline potence can increase your damage. I believe it's potence 3 gives you a 2nd point of damage, so now your punch or your stab is doing 2 points, and the exceptional is the third. And then when you get to Potence 5, I believe it's 3 as the base and 4 on the exceptional.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the physical can actually scale up. If you're shooting someone with a gun, unless you get something funky that your storyteller lets you have, you're going to be doing 2 points of damage, 3 on the exceptional. Physical can go much higher, especially when you get into Elder Powers.
Right. Now, when you're taking damage, there are 3 categories of damage. There's healthy, injured, and incapacitated. When you've taken the first 3 wounds, you're still healthy. It's just scratches off you. You just kind of like fell off your bike, and you scratched your knee. You just need a kiss on a boo boo kind of bit. Now, when you're injured, you actually have some real wounds on you. It says that there are some attacks that might work more effectively when you're injured. None of them I can find in BNS. There may be some in Werewolf. I haven't finished every page of Werewolf. Now, incapacitated is you lose your simple action every round to heal the incapacitated health levels. I used to be mistaken. I thought you lost your complex. You actually lose your simple. So you still have your standard. I mean standard, not complex. So you can shoot back from the ground, but you're not going anywhere unless you're spending your action to walk. So it's that classic, I'm lying here dying, but I might be able to drag myself up a few feet or smack a guy as I'm falling down. Now, when you're at the incapacitated health level, the magic aspect maybe you actually can be staked. As I've mentioned many times in many classes, staking in By Night Studios has been entirely pulled back from being what most people construed as effective. Harry, since you know a lot about werewolves, would you like to talk about healing and the nature of aggravated damage and normal damage?
Sure will. Your standard damage that everybody does is lethal damage. It can be healed by spending blood. Your healing rate per round is based on how much blood you can spend. So, and Scylla, for instance, can you spend 2 blood per round? So, if they don't use celerity or any other disciplines that require their blood, they take 2 hits of damage in round 1. They can blow 2 blood right then, and they're back to normal. Aggravated damage, on the other hand, it takes time. Unless you have a discipline like Fortitude that is going to allow you to soak it. Now, with Fortitude, the best you can do with Fortitude 5 is soak 2 points of aggravated into normal, and then wipe the 2 normals away like they never existed without spending any blood. Anything over that in round 1, with Fortitude, it's by the hit. It's by the attacker.
Right.
So I attack a gang roll with Fortitude 5. I get the exceptional. I'm hitting him for 3 points of aggravated damage because I've got Burning Wrath. He can forget 2 of them like they never even happened. The 3rd point of aggravated damage is going to sit and stay. It takes, for every point of aggravated damage, it takes a full night, and I believe blood to heal. You cannot just, I'm done with my aggravated, I've spent the blood. It doesn't work that way. You have to wait. That has actually given me several opportunities to come in with burn marks and other damage, makeup jobs, which I love to do for Gabe, because it shows the fact that damage has to take time. There's no quick way out of it. Now, once again, lethal damage, spend the blood, heal up.
And Bahamut 810 has brought up that's for non-Elder Fortitude. The Elder Fortitude lets you ignore a 3rd wound.
Yes, once you start getting up higher than that.
Right. But standard players starting off, they're not going to have Elder Powers.
Right. There's a lot of crazy techniques and Elder Powers out there. Like, what is it? Will to live? Or
Will to survive.
Will to
allows
survive.
you to actually, if you have no lethal damage, every 3 rounds you heal an ag.
Right.
So it doesn't cost you blood, doesn't take the night. So it can take you from, I have 8 ag to, not even 5 minutes later, you're walking around, daisies and sunbeams. Maybe not sun.
That's celerity fortitude technique, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So now that we've talked a little bit about traits and we've talked how blood can be used for healing, one of the other things that blood can be used for is to give you another trait. If you're really close to getting over that guy, you want just to have that one more over, You are allowed to spend blood to raise a trait once per challenge. It is not the turn, it is not the scene, it is once per challenge. So most people are going to feel this is not a particularly valuable way to spend the blood. But there are those moments where that's exactly what you need.
Question with that.
Yes.
By my understanding, to spend that blood, you cannot pass your cap. So, like, a guy who's got 11 physicals cannot spend the blood to go to 12 because he's already at his physical cap.
Let's see.
I never went back and read the rule. That was how it was explained to me one night when I tried doing it.
When I read it, I think that's what I read because I could not pass my 15 because I was.
And it doesn't help. It is a vampire can spend blood to boost the physical attribute, raising a rating for the duration of one challenge. Each point of blood spent in a way boosts a vampire's physical attribute rating by 1. Blood spent to increase your physical attribute does not require an action, and the expenditure can be done at any time. It may even be done before your initiative. The amount of blood that a character can spend per round, and eventually overall blood pool will limit how much a character can boost their attribute.
Okay, yeah, no, you could actually go higher than your trait category.
Right.
Okay.
And that exact definition would let you actually add it to initiative.
Right, because you spend it right at the beginning.
You can spend. It says you can spend it before initiative, and it lasts one challenge.
Right. And initiative is not a challenge.
Right. So, I'm an elder. I'm a super powerful elder. I got my 5 a turn. I could theoretically then go and dump. I have a natural 20 before my actual skill.
Right. Because you would have 15 physicals, you spend 5 blood to pump that to 20 physicals.
Yeah.
Right before initiative, you're now operating on 20
Yeah.
before you spend anything on celerity, or before any celerity kicks in.
Okay.
For that first challenge.
I'm just like, no.
For that first,
Run.
round, that first challenge.
Yeah.
Just run.
Bahamut's very much.
Run.
That's the emergency assistance. You need to kind of back up that little push up just a little harder.
Yes.
But
if someone is attacking you and they are constantly getting exceptionals, but it's just because they have that one extra point,
yeah.
even as they're neonates, like, alright, this challenge, I'm going to bump my physicals up by 1 so they can't get the exceptional on me.
Okay, Bahamut, I would think it would not affect initiative normally, but the fact that the wording says you could do it before initiative, why would you not do it only at the second of the bid? Because at the second of the bid is the last moment you're going to know you're going to need it. Doing it before initiative would only have an effect at the initiative phase. It could be poor writing. It seems to imply you get it for the initiative as well.
Right, and I would say because it says that you raise the physical attribute, you are then bidding that physical attribute on initiative.
Right, if they wanted it just for the challenge, they would have said you have this many bonus traits for the challenge.
Right.
No, it actually makes sense if you think about the vampire blood is strengthening you, speeding you up. You get tapped into the blood, you got that little bit of boost of extra speed to get your initiative going.
Bahamut, why does the raise not last the entire turn? And the simple answer for that is By Night Studios is attempting to have combat be less deadly. That is the only reason it does not last the entire turn. It lasted the entire turn in classic Mind's Eye Theater. It lasts the entire scene if you're not going above your generational max in tabletop. The reason it's not done is a guy walks in, drinks his buddy, pops 5 traits is going to be overwhelming in combat if you're in that scenario. Classically, I feel that they should be able to keep spending blood at last for the scene until it gets above their generational maximum. I should be able to be the Poindexter of vampires, spend a lot of blood, and be able to slap around the strongest personal martial artist. But that's the way BNS wrote it. So, doesn't make sense is the great answer.
Now, I would say there is, especially if you wanted to cheese this a little, especially if you have Herd as a background, you spend, since it lasts for a challenge, you blow your 5 as soon as you wake up until you actually have a challenge thrown against you. So you spend the blood, you go up your extra 5, it sits there, and then you go to your Herd and you drink the Herd, because there isn't a challenge you're drinking from Herd. And that way you're at full blood and you've already pre-spent that first 5.
Oh my god.
It's cheesy. It's cheesy. And if I was a storyteller, I would really throw some shade at that person who did that. but I believe by the letter of
No,
the
okay.
rule.
The letter of the law, I know exactly how you stop that. It doesn't say one challenge you're in.
Just says one challenge.
It says for the length of one challenge. So I could say, well, another guy had to actually do a ritual test at the start of the game. Sorry, challenges happen.
Yep. I'm not saying there aren't ways to combat. I'm just saying there's the potential for cheese.
There's potential. There's a lot of potential for cheese, and that's kind of also what we're here for. We're here to kind of talk about these pieces of minutia and break down how, as a player, you might be able to find an edge, and as a storyteller, what edge is coming at you.
Right.
Now, we've talked about blood. We've talked about health. We've.
Oh, there was one other piece just in the physical damage that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
If you actually get your fangs into another vampire, you're able to bite them. You're, for the most part, no longer just doing lethal damage now. You're actually doing a point of aggravated damage.
Yes.
So if it comes down to
We're
I want to punch you or I want to bite you,
Okay. Whoa.
but there's an extra step.
But you can't just bite. You can't just bite. And that's actually bringing us to the next situation where we're going to talk about combat maneuvers.
Hey,
Grappling.
So, in combat maneuvers, which is, if someone has a wonderful page number for me, that'd be grand.
I don't recall them off the top of my head.
Here we go. Complex scenes. That's action.
See, I didn't know they
Grapple.
didn't have bashing as part of the damage. I didn't
Okay.
know that they were doing that.
Combat maneuvers. Here we are. We are on page 280. Okay. Now, the nature of combat maneuvers is by spending a willpower or having a certain type of physical focus, you can do these combat maneuvers that will allow you to do extra effects in your strikes. Now, some of these are very simple. Some of these are pretty complicated. So we're going to kind of go through these as quickly as we kind of can. Michael, do you want to talk about what Burst of Speed does?
Sure. Burst of Speed we actually mentioned ever so briefly. It's a combat maneuver that allows you to take your simple action immediately, even out of initiative order. So you get to you then take your standard action on your initiative order. But this is the I'm pulling the gun. This is the I'm taking 3 steps away. This is the whatever you can do on your simple turn, you get to do it before the other person. Now, a cheese moment here. Somebody takes 3 steps towards me, I burst of speed, I take 3 steps away from them, I'm now no longer in a physical range where they can punch me.
Yes. Because a simple is maneuvers.
Right.
So, Ari, do you want to talk about blinding attack?
Lightning attack. Sure. With a lightning attack, if you succeed with a blinding attack, your opponent suffers 3 less damage, minimum 0, but is blinded until she spends 2 simple actions clearing her eyes.
It's dust in the eye. Okay.
Or a big ratkin, loogie blow to your face.
Right.
There you go. Harry, do you want to talk about disarm?
Sure. Disarming. Modify your attack test pool -2. If you succeed in the challenge, you force your target to drop 1 item of your choice. Picking the item up requires a standard action. If you are dexterity focused and have a free hand, you may choose to end up holding the disarmed object. Really good when somebody's got a gun that you want to point right back at them.
Yep. This is that kung fu maneuver of you got the gun on me, now I have the gun on you.
Right. Normally the maneuver can only be used on an object the target is holding in her hand. But the storyteller may allow you to use the maneuver to take unsecured items off the target, such as a cord tied around her neck, a hat, a rod sticking out of the pocket. Disarm cannot be used to remove large or secured items, such as a jacket or a chainmail.
There you go.
That would be funny, though.
It would be funny. Now,
What happened to my pants? I've got no clue. What happened to my pants?
there you go.
Go talk to the Tornado over there who's now doing the hat trick.
Now, grapple. This was the thing that Michael was talking about.
Right.
If you succeed on a grapple attack, your opponent can take 3 less damage, minimum of 0, and is grappled. While grappled, they cannot move and can not use a standard action to make a physical action. She can escape from your grapple by using a simple action investing you in a pose challenge, brawl, or melee. Upon escaping, the target will regain full use of their standard action. She does not have to wait till their next round to use it. You can relinquish your grapple if you take any action that targets anyone other than the character you're grappling, or if you move more than one step per round. If a single character is being grappled by more than one opponent, they only need to best one opponent to escape. The grappling characters cannot decide on who is resisting the attempt to break out. The storyteller will decide. As long as the character is grappled, they are considered a target of a physical challenge each round, allowing others to only treat them with one additional physical attack. In Pillars of Salt, we do allow, if you are grappled, to be staked, since you are unable to resist or move. In the base mechanic, this is not allowed. Michael, knockouts.
Knockouts. So if you surprise your target, you may attempt to knock them unconscious. You modify your attack pool by -2 again, just like you do for some of the other ones at -2s, -3s. If you succeed, your target is unconscious for 10 minutes. So you set your timer and you wait just as they lay there. Now, this maneuver can only be used during the first round of combat, and you can't use it if your target is expecting a combat. So, for example, if you got heightened senses or something going on, and they know that you're around them, however, if you've snuck up behind them and you're just knocking them over the head, and they haven't seen you coming, you can do the knockout.
The most important line.
Some supernatural creatures, such as vampires, cannot be knocked unconscious.
Kind of the important line.
Great for mortals, great for ghouls, not so much for people in these court.
Mages are good at getting knocked out.
Yes.
Yes.
Garu?
Cannot.
Supernatural.
That's right. Supernatural.
Yeah. The only reason mages are, they actually note that mages' physicality is as a mortal. They have to heal like mortal unless they spend magic and rest. Quick draw.
Quick draw. You can draw one weapon or another small item on your person without using a simple action.
Poof.
Like a wart.
There you go. You're served. Harry?
Knockdown. If you succeed with a knockdown attack, your opponent takes 1 less damage, minimum of 0, and ends up lying on the ground. See the rules for prone characters above. While prone, your opponent may use an action to crawl 1 step. A prone character can use a simple action to stand up and move up to 1 step.
Now, what's really powerful with knockdown is a little kind of non sequitur. Shotguns knock down people who don't have a stamina focus. So you're essentially locking that person down to 1 step a turn. Okay, fighting blind. If you can't see your opponent and you have a fighting blind aspect, you can fight anyways, even if you don't have auspex or other kooky powers. And Michael.
Yeah. Pierce the heart. Here's where you start getting into staking and things. If your opponent wounds are at the incapacitated wound track, you may attempt, and that's the third of the levels of hit points, you may attempt to use a melee or ranged weapon to pierce the heart. You modify the test pool by -3 while attempting the maneuver. If you hit a mortal with this attack, she's instantly killed. If this attack hits a vampire and your weapon has the staking quality, the vampire is staked. A successful pierce the heart maneuver stakes stock NPCs regardless of how much damage they currently have, since they do not utilize wound tracks. Then you can talk. Then there's more information about the actual staking trait that you can find in the equipment section.
Okay.
So that, from that, staking somebody in game, bad idea. You might as well just knock them into torpor. Downtime action in that fight, use the staking feature because NPCs don't have wound tracks.
So, by the way, we have a few chat things that have come up.
Go for it.
Can you not contest the grapple, but instead choose to attack? Can you get a second attack without the celerity? If you chose not to contest the grapple, you would lose your. You only
lose your standard action.
Yeah, you'd lose your standard action. So you kind of have to contest the grapple, or you're just kind of love being hugged. If you had a second action with celerity, you would have 2 chances to get out of the grapple, but you still are kind of locked in the grapple.
Right.
Now,
it's even think of it. If they grapple you, you're on the ground and you're trying to punch them over you or over your head, you can't quite get enough leverage to really deal any kind of significant blow.
Right. And I believe the not so useful on vampires is the knockout.
Yeah.
That is kind of really impressive for anyone else, and is the closest you have to surprise attacks for hunting and other types of things.
Great on Inquisition.
Great on Inquisitioners. And if you fail the test, they just go, "We have faith," and you run away.
Yes.
Ari, so any other kinds of issues you've come up with in combat?
I think we covered a lot of them because there's just like very specific things when it comes down to it. Because I know that if you're not paying attention to your focuses, you really lose out a lot in the combats.
Yes.
So knowing your character sheet very well is, I think, that what ends up being a big miss for a lot of people is I know that even in my own combats, I would be sitting there and I'm like, I'm a luminary elder. Why can I not beat this mortal? And it's just one of those like, oh yeah, forgot my potence. This adds to this.
Right.
I actually made that very mistake with Tony, who I played for a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I remember in the old rules, I actually downplayed the value of guns.
Right.
And I'm like, no, forget the fact that he's mental heavy, and he's got the wits focus. Forget that. I got to boost his physicals up. So I spent point after point after point raising my potence, raising my physicals up, to find out if I had a gun, I was already set to be taking people out. And it was just for me. It was a like Harvey said. It was missing the focus and going off the old rules that really kind of made me drop a whole lot of XP I didn't need to.
Remembering with your focus on your physicals is really important. That if your strength or your dex, that you have some free maneuvers to play around with. I kind of always am like, if I'm prepping for a fight, I'm always like, well, what can I drop one of these a little early to give myself an advantage? If you have a stamina focus, you get to ignore wound penalties, which is pretty amazing. So,
I have played Marcus Jonak at Toreador for 2 years. He started with physical 3. I never put a single point into physical. At the end, though, I was rocking a 15, I think it was, on my physical attack with the gun because I had the wits focus. So it was one of those just kind of fun things, and I was still doing the 2 points as if I had put a lot and tried to buy a potent or something like that.
So Bahamut brought up that he feels stamina focus is usually what he considers best. For 3 to 4 XP, you're going to get Fortitude 1, which adds another 3 health levels.
Right.
Absolutely, that is a super bonus if you're not a primary aggressive character. If you know you have Cell in Clan or you have Potency in Clan, obviously you're going to take one of those. If you have even that one Fortitude teacher, yes, those 3 health levels is outstanding.
There is also a merit that allows you to have more than one physical focus. So you could have both, for example, dex and stamina.
Do you remember what the merit's called?
Versatile?
That is correct.
Yes.
And then there's a Malkavian merit
Yes,
that allows it
that
for
gives you-
mentals.
Yeah.
Does a focus on strength have to spend willpower to then retest on the maneuver? If you spent... Okay, so if you had a strength focus and you were using one of the strength-focused ones, you wouldn't have to spend a willpower to do the maneuver, and thus you could spend a willpower to retest. But even if you did spend a willpower to do the maneuver, there's no reason that you could not then spend a willpower to retest as well.
Right, because it's the difference of spending to use it versus the retest, which is the key word.
Now, that we're on the concept of these maneuvers, I'd like to bring up mass combat, because if you're in a combat, there's going to normally be more than one person.
Can I mention one last thing before we start moving to mass combat
Yes.
related to maneuvers? There are actually some statuses that you can get that will allow you, by spending the status, to use a combat maneuver. So if you are looking for ways to stack even more maneuvers into your repertoire, take a look at the status section as well.
Are all of those Sabbat statuses done?
No, the Camarilla statuses as well.
There's a camera status that gives you an
Yep.
extra maneuver. That's cool. Okay.
I think it's courageous.
Courageous. That's the like an Archon one.
There's one.
There's one that you could get. Okay. There's one in the ballpark.
There is one. I at one point, as Marcus Jonak, had it.
Okay, so that's how we know it's possible.
Right, but it might have been given to me by an Archon.
Okay. Okay. So now mass combat is and yeah, courageous status. Malibu, Marbo Lone Wolf says it's courageous.
Okay.
Now, mass combats. If we don't like Marcus Jonak,
That happens.
Frequently.
and we want to, and Ari is going to attack Marcus Jonak because she doesn't like getting pushed around.
I don't.
Hey, she shouldn't have said what she did.
Exactly. So let's
It was
say
true.
you wanted to knock him down. Okay? You're going to slap him around, knock him down. You don't want to have to spend that willpower for that extra ability.
No.
You could say, though, hey, Harry or Patrick, why don't you back my play? And by adding support to you in a fight, you can get one extra combat maneuver for no cost per person who adds support to you.
Dang. Should
You
have
get-
played nicer.
You get a big enough group of people to come after someone. They can all aid you at different times. You can continuously try to, blind fight them. You can continuously try to blinding attack them. Whatever you want to do for them.
Yes. Like, if you really have trouble with Lasombra, you just have your friend with you. He's your CNI dog. You theoretically can have blind fighting every turn for free.
Yep.
Dang.
Where
Okay.
that person can't do anything but
Diddly.
aid you.
Right.
Yes.
But that's
Now-
why you bring a posse.
You bring a whole posse. Now, there's a problem with the posse. The problem with the posse is if they want to do something of their own, like be players who do tests and actually have what they want happen, not a lot of people can do that. In every combat, a person can only be bid against by 2 physicals, 1 mental, and 1 social challenge. That means if I have 15 guys there, yes, we could have one person with plus 15 maneuvers, but there are not 15 maneuvers. And those people are sitting there kind of bored. BNS has kind of intentionally created this where I don't create a massive posse all killing one person. If we want, we can kind of switch off of who's better at that turn or whatever. But normally it comes to who has ever spent most XP is standing in the middle, and we have another group of guys sitting back waiting for the challenge to finish. Now, there are some outstanding social and mental challenges that can occur
Oh yeah.
in this scenario. So if you are a mental or social character, do not feel that you are limited in the combat scenario. There's a person who all of us know named Charles Stanton who plays a Harbinger of Skull that has a social challenge that is so overwhelmingly powerful, the people lose their next challenge.
I don't think they even get to try. They lose their next turn.
They lose their next simple and standard.
Right.
So theoretically, celerity and other things might be able to stop it. But yeah, no, it's rough stuff. And you always get dominate a guy, hey, take a seat. Or drop the gun.
Sleep.
Sleep, actually, they said doesn't work.
Well,
Because you
But-
can't will yourself to sleep.
well.
But you can.
can-
down-
Yeah.
lot of people have used it though in earlier in POS.
In early POS, because it was a classic example before, we're a little bit better about go to sleep. I mean, not go to sleep, sorry. You got me thinking about it. You could say go away, sit down, be
Dance.
patient.
It's really hard to punch someone if you're dancing.
Yeah, dance.
No, that's boxing.
Haven't you ever seen Jackie Chan?
Yeah, Henry wills himself to sleep every night. Well, if that 76 is your birth, because I'm born in 77, I have trouble sleeping every night. So more power to you that you can easily go to sleep every night. So remember, if you're gonna mob a guy, you're normally not going to need more than 4 or 5 people. You're going to need your primary physical guy, you need your second physical guy, you need a social and mental, and maybe 1 or 2 to add maneuvers if you want to do grapples and stuff for cheap. So that's kind of important to understand about the mass combat. Anyone want to talk about fair escape?
Well, I was just gonna say, if you wanted to use, if you were get together a posse to go off and attack someone, they might also have a posse. So you do want to know that just your 4 guys going after one guy. If he's got a couple of buddies, then then it becomes even more dangerous for your group. So sometimes it is helpful to have the larger groups, but that's when you know you're going against, say a Sabat pack, where there are going to be 4 of those guys standing around as well.
Hey, you can't defeat a Sabat pack by yourself?
Marcus Jonak couldn't have said it.
Can you add a maneuver while being obfuscated?
Wouldn't that break your obfuscate?
I think they would get a challenge. because you're not necessarily physically touching them.
And there is a focus that allows you to whisper things to someone. So if you're
Okay, no, that alone tells me that you probably can't, because you're doing a greater disruption of the environment than a whisper.
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, I would say that it would break. It would break the obfuscate, even if you had that focus, because the focus talks about it's the level of a whisper that would not break it. You're doing more than that. You're helping the guy. You're containing them. Almost the person has to even see you to kind of like be like, oh, I want to go in there. I just got punched by the other guy. I kind of have to say you have to be visible in some fashion. I wouldn't say it would break a mask of 1,000. You can walk up like stuff like that, but a entire invisibility, they'd still be able to catch you. So, fair escape, because when you can't win, you may be able to run. Now, fair escape is a particularly hard mechanic to do. You must declare your fair escape, and you cannot be involved in any physical challenge for an entire round, including celerity. Oh no, a full round or celerity. So that means only the first round. If you haven't been affected, no, are they saying with that celerity round that you could be stopped in the celerity, or that they you would just have to have one action of your own?
well, it says you can fair escape even during. You can attempt to fair escape even during celerity rounds.
Yeah. So you take your attack.
Yeah.
You take your attack on your initiative. We now go into celerity rounds. I'm calling fair escape.
If you don't have a celerity to physically challenge me,
I'm outta here.
I'm gone.
Right.
Okay, if you're attacked before that initiative, or attempt to fair escape automatically fails, even if they failed, you must declare your intention to fair escape, and other players who have not yet acted that turn have the opportunity to announce that they're going to try to stop you. If someone declares the intent to attack, the fair escape is put on hold. If you are attacked later that round, your fair escape fails. If you're not attacked, your fair escape succeeds, and at the end of the round, after all characters have acted. If you fail to escape, you may take steps or other actions, but not until after the fair escape attempt fails. It is not possible for your character to be physically attacked in the current round. Your attempt to fair escape automatically succeeds. Now, it is meant to hasten play, not complicate it. It is meant... Okay, let's be honest. That's not what it's meant to do. What it is meant to do, if 5 guys get mobbed, one of those guys is not going to hit that challenge, it's a good time for that guy to flee, if everyone else is going to die. And now there's going to be evidence out there that things are there.
Right.
BNS is constantly trying to reduce the deadliness of the game and perpetuate the social parlor aspect of the game. So, if things look bad and there's a challenge on you, run. Because you get away. Regardless if you have any celerity, the guy's cell 5, doesn't matter. If he didn't actually come after you, you sneak away.
Right.
So,
Which makes celerity a really handy thing to have in a situation like that.
yes.
Because if someone shoots at you, you can shoot back, and then on your celerity, fair escape.
So, we are currently at 53 minutes. Is there any other questions that any of you would like to bring up?
What happens with something like a social power that has a blanket effect, such as Majesty? If I still want to punch you, but he's got his Majesty out, how can I? Is there a way to maneuver around that?
Okay, so the Majesty Declaration says you only have to stop fighting the Majesteer, not the person next to him.
I thought there was also a section in Majesty that if you are going to attack an area and a person with Majesty is in that area,
No.
you cannot attack the area.
Okay, what they're actually saying is, like, let's say I have a fireball.
Right.
I can't drop a fireball if you'll be in its area of effect.
Right.
So I can't attack the area because I am attacking you too.
Cool. So I can still attack. So if you've got Majesty, I can still attack your allies.
Yes.
I just can't attack you.
Yep. But I could have trained you to stop attacking my allies.
Right.
But yes. And Harry, you had one?
I forgot.
You forgot.
Well,
I'm sure it'll come back to me.
with Majesty, I know with the tabletop rules, it was anything that would be offensive.
Yes. It's they can't be offensive to you.
Right.
Oh, so I could be like, oh, well, obviously, what they said was obviously offensive enough for me, so I'm going to attack your buddy because what they said.
No. You can't be offensive to the caster. You
Right.
can be offensive to the guy standing next to the caster.
I really like you, Ari. Sorry, Mike. You're a jerk.
And so he can attack Mike.
Right.
It used to be the whole area, it used to be everything. Hi Carla, it's okay that you're late. We are going to post it later. And you get to everyone say hi to Carla. We can wave hi, Carla.
Hi, Carla.
There we go. So that is, I think, going to be a good class for now. If people are interested in this format that we're doing right now, and maybe people just don't want to see my face the entire time, we are maybe going to do more of this format. People, please, on the Facebook page or on the YouTube, put your comments. We're still kind of deciding what we're going to be doing for next week, and if we're going to have a panel or we're just going to have me. But in 2 weeks, I mean, we do we have a break in between every week, so we have a little bit of time to actually play the game we're talking about. But other than that, thank you all very much for joining, and have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Auf Wiedersehen.
See you guys again.